Another live episode of geekoutdoors.com, and this week we're going to primarily just be focused on just two topics this week, one of which is really not good news, and then another one is good news. Okay, so the first bit of not good news is the fact that Vimeo is shutting down, and the good news part is the brand new version of Linux Mint 18.3 Sylvia came out, and I just wanted to talk about that. So let me go ahead and get set up really quick and make sure everything is working. Good morning, Lance. Thanks for joining. Let me move this over to the desktop. Let me refresh this. And so what I do now with every episode, I actually want to put the actual chat on my computer and not on my phone, which I'm recording. And I have mentioned this, I think, in the last video. If any of you do YouTube and you're doing live video, it is so much easier to do it on the mobile device, and I'm pretty sure Google is doing that on purpose. Whereas if you do it on the desktop, it's a pain unless you're using Google Hangouts. Okay, so that's why I'm having to do this. So let's make sure this works. Okay. Okay, let me get this chat out. Let me separate the chat. How about chat? Okay. Okay. All right. So, got that all set up. So, let's go ahead and start with the news. And so, if you didn't know, Vimeo, if you are not familiar with Vimeo, what Vimeo is, it's actually a video creation site, very similar to YouTube. And unfortunately, the whole site is going to be shutting down. They're winding down right now, and the announcement was actually yesterday. And the actual co-founder of Vidme, I'm sorry if I said Vimeo earlier, I meant to say Vidme. And the actual co-founder of Vidme is actually Warren Schaefer. Okay, and I will be talking about Vimeo as well. And so Warren Schaefer put a post on Medium, and Medium is basically a blog site, and he talks about, you know, their history and how he's, you know, like, really sad that the site's gonna go, but that they did a lot of things to try to change things up in the whole video content creation world. And so it looks like all new signups and uploads will be disabled for people who have subscriber-based paid subscriptions. That will be shutting down. And it looks like everything, you could actually go to your video manager and get everything, I think, by December 15th. After that point, all the videos will be permanently deleted from the actual Vidme servers. And so let's talk a little bit about this, because hey, good morning, Anox Man. Thanks for joining. And Anox Man, I will be talking about Linux on the second half of this, because I really wanted to take the time to talk about that. Hey, good morning, George Trappist. Thank you for joining. And so that's why this particular episode, I'm just going to be really focused on two topics, because I did want to talk about Linux Mint and just like things that I really enjoy about it. And anyway, we'll get into that. Let me go ahead and start with the whole Vidme thing. And so Vidme, it actually started in 2014. And the whole idea, I guess the whole big idea with it was to give a more creator-focused channel for video creators, okay? And YouTube is still the best spot for video. I mean, that's indisputable, okay? But as the years have gone, and I have mentioned this before, I put a video up there somewhere where I talked about how YouTube beats all the other video platforms and the reasons why. So some of the things that I talked about in that video, I will be talking about here. And I also did another live video, I think a few weeks ago, where I talked about YouTube being demonetized. Okay, but the general idea is this. I mean, it wanted to be a video focus for more creators. Okay, basically what YouTube was primarily the type of content it was at the beginning. It primarily wanted to go back there. Okay, and that was the whole big idea. Okay. But the reason why Vidme shut down and many other video sites shut down is because you need a business behind it. And they knew that. I mean, most of these people who are doing these sites, it's not cheap. I mean, I think they got like $10 million in initial funding, and it's not cheap to actually run something like this. And so the whole idea of how all of these companies make money, and I have talked about this on our last video, but I'm going to restate this here really quickly, is the fact that you have your site, whatever site that you have, then you have content, okay, but then most importantly, you need traffic. That's the most important element. And then once you get the traffic, you need a way to monetize that traffic, okay? So that's why any site that you go to, it's very similar in the way they're structured. That's not by accident, that's by design, and that's the way that it works. And so with YouTube being owned by Google, being the largest second search engine in the world, and they own Google AdWords, the largest ad platform in the world. Facebook ads is second, okay? And so they have all three components. They have the content, which is user-generated content. They have traffic, obviously, billions and billions of views a day. And then they have a way to monetize because they actually are owned by Google, which has the largest ad platform in the world. And a lot of the websites that you go to, whether it's Dailymotion, Vidme, or most of the others, most of the ads that they're running or will run, it's going to be through Google. And so no matter where you're at, you're going to have to use their platform, okay? The only other platform that you can use at that scale is going to be Facebook ads, okay? But then Facebook ads is on Facebook, okay? So that's why Vidme was not able to sustain themselves, because they could not maintain a way to run their business, because at the end of the day, you have bills to pay. And then definitely there's people working at Vidme, you know, there's people who, you know, depend on them as a company for a means of living. And then at the same time, for all the creators who are creating content who decided to become a partner, they need to get paid as well. And so I think a lot of people, when they think about YouTube doing all these things, you know, like demonetizing their videos, you just got to remember that is primarily the only big platform that's going to pay you. If you go to sites like Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, think about any other websites. Do any of them pay you basically for free? They're giving you a free platform to put your stuff on. If you actually have to pay for the server space, you actually had to pay for the bandwidth, and most importantly, if you actually have to pay for all the traffic, most people would not be able to afford YouTube. Actually, probably 99% of the population would not be able to afford it, because it would be in the thousands and thousands of dollars. So just think about it that way. YouTube is right now the only place really that pays you that much, basically for free. They're giving you free services, free marketing. You know, so once again, if you go to Facebook, Twitter, any other site, none of them are paying you. They don't have a partnership paid program. You know, so they do have ad platforms that you can pay to show your ads on their sites. Now, I will say this, video is going to be everywhere. And I'm not just talking about what we see right now. Video right now, even though we think video is everywhere, it's not. If you go to platforms like Facebook, for example, or their other company which own Instagram, you'll notice more and more, you're going to see more and more videos, okay? And so even in the future, when you are doing more searches, right, or you are looking for things, or you're asking your AI, Alexa or whatever for something, more than likely it's going to bring up something that has video in it first, okay? And I have mentioned this before, video is the most powerful medium. It's the easiest way for us to learn, and it's also the easiest way for most people to consume, because it's visual and has audio as well. And so in the future, look forward to more and more video coming out on every single medium that you use. It doesn't matter. And then when it comes to the whole advertising platform, you're going to see way more video marketing. And so whatever you're seeing on YouTube now, that is just like the beginning. Okay, pretty soon you're going to see video marketing absolutely everywhere. So be ready for that, okay? Now, in terms of the positives, okay, I really want to, being a content creator and also doing the digital marketing on the other side, you could see both sides. And so being a content creator, I really do applaud what Vidme was able to do and actually try to do, because it's difficult. Okay, even companies like YouTube, right? I'm pretty sure they're profitable now, but they were in the black for a very long time. I'm sorry, not black, they were in the red, meaning they weren't making money. I think last year, October 2016, about a year ago, more than a year ago now, I think they posted revenues of $10 billion. And Google, they weren't stupid when they bought YouTube. They knew that video was going to be a huge thing. So just I mentioned earlier, videos everywhere, right? Guess who's still going to be the leader? And guess who's going to make the most money? It's YouTube. And so because they are dominant, you know, and like I said, they have all those other three things. And then second to them, my feeling is it's going to be Facebook, okay? And then finally, I want to talk about a third one that's coming in. So with Vidme, going back to what they did, They really tried to bring it back to a creator focus type platform, which I think a lot of people do enjoy, because, you know, if you go to YouTube now, and, you know, YouTube is a business, so it has to do these things, okay, in order to stay in business. Otherwise, they'll end up like a Vidme or many of these other video companies that have gone out of business, okay? And so that's why when you go to YouTube, you're going to see a lot of mainstream stuff similar to TV, because now big media is there. Why? Because there's traffic there, there's money there. But if you looked at like 10 years ago, the big media, there weren't as many there because they didn't see the monetary potential, but now they do. Okay, so that's not going to stop. It's actually going to get even bigger than that, actually. So digital videos, the whole medium, we're so used to it now, that is our new TV. And so I do applaud the fact that Vidme did try to make it more creative focused. They added some more tools to make it easier, and that's what they really wanted to do. And I understand the monetization point, that was very important, but they spent a lot more time on the creative focus area instead of spending more time on the business area. And so unfortunately, you know, you need to do that as well, okay? And so let me see what George is saying. Yeah, YouTube is the idea of democracy. Creators make content, viewers view it, and have the chance to appreciate. George says even WWE Network gets live on YouTube. Yeah, George, and that's kind of like the whole point that I keep talking about this. You know, I talk about a lot about YouTube stuff as well, because when you're a content creator, it doesn't matter which platform that you're on. And I have said this before, being a content creator, you know, it's not a job. You know, I think some people would like to think it's a job, but it's not. You are a entrepreneur. You are self-employed. And with that, you are responsible for making money. Okay, and so that means whatever platform that you're on, or ideally you would create your own platform, you know, you have to adapt. Unfortunately, there's nobody who's going to pay you for it, and then you can't force people to come to your website or come to your channel and watch. You can't do that, okay? And so it's a business. You have a lot of competition out there. And so where I was going with that was, so once Vidme shuts down, you know, what other options do video content creators have other than YouTube? Well, it's so funny because the two that's been around the longest, they're still here. Okay, so I want to first talk about Dailymotion, okay, and then secondly I want to talk about Vimeo. And Dailymotion just made a recent update to your website, and I didn't know that Dailymotion has been around this long. And Dailymotion has been around since 2005, and then Vimeo has been around even longer, 2004, and if I remember correctly, that's around the same time when YouTube was created. I'll have to look that up, but that's a long time. And you know, and Dailymotion has gotten a lot of you know, flack over the years for like not having traffic. It just looks like a horrible site. But now, if you look at it now, it looks really clean. And before, Dailymotion had a lot of let me show you. Dailymotion had they had a lot of ads on their site. You know, it's really disorienting, and a lot of ads, they were all Google ads, by the way. They were all AdSense ads. And so now I think it's looking cleaner, and I know this sounds weird, but I think Dailymotion, it might be a really good second option if you wanted to have your content on different areas. But after I talk about Dailymotion and Vimeo, I want to talk about the other up-and-coming video platforms that you should consider if you wanted to do stuff outside of YouTube, okay? And so Dailymotion, it is a French-based company. They are out of Paris, okay? And then secondly, we have Vimeo. And Vimeo, it's always been like, I would say for a lot of people, it's for the creator focus site, okay? And both of these sites, more Vimeo than Dailymotion, especially Vimeo, it's not really like for content creator site, okay, meaning free content creators, free content, okay, that's not really what Vimeo is about. And Dailymotion, it's more similar to that. It's more similar to YouTube, where, you know, you create content and people go and watch it for free, okay? But they do have a monetization strategy. If you go to Dailymotion, there is a section on there for monetization, and I think with some of the improvements that they're making here, it looks like a viable option, okay? And Vimeo, they have always from day one they've always been focused on the business end, and then they provide content, which is smart. That's why they're still around. And if you didn't know, if you've never used Vimeo, I use Vimeo. And so for Vimeo, the main reason why you would use it is you had something like to sell, okay? If you are a creator, you wanted to show your portfolio or something, right? And you didn't want it to be available to the public. You obviously you could do that through like YouTube as well to do private video, but Vimeo does more advanced things. Like for example, in Vimeo, if you paid for it, you could actually have your videos only show up in certain places. Okay, so for example, if you did have a portfolio that you didn't want to share, or for other people who are doing membership websites, right? They do not want their videos to show anywhere else except your website. That's the measure of the control that you have. That's why you would choose something like a Vimeo. And I really feel here in the future, I think I mentioned this many times before, YouTube will become more of a paid platform. Meaning that people like myself or other businesses, they want to use more of business related stuff. Like for example, like what Vimeo does. I don't want my videos on this particular site, or I don't want robots and stuff to actually crawl and get all that information and have it out to the public. You know, you want things secure, then YouTube, Google, I'm pretty sure they could offer something like that. And I'll definitely pay for that, you know, because YouTube is still the best platform. And so I would love to have that option. Like if you are doing a membership site, okay, or you're doing a tutorial site, or you're doing a business site where your people are paying you to show your online courses, and you don't want that anywhere else, and you definitely don't want it anywhere outside of your website, then you'll pay for it. Okay, so I think that's coming. And I would definitely pay for those things because I'm already paying for additional services anyway, okay? And so besides Dailymotion and Vimeo, what is really the other video networks that are here, okay, that are available and that will be available? Well, my opinion is, and I just mentioned it a little bit earlier, is Facebook. Facebook/Instagram. If you do any type of advertising or digital marketing, you'll realize that Facebook, on the back end, they're really starting to push video. And as a matter of fact, even if you do Facebook posts, they will give you more like I'd say, more exposure because you put a video on versus just a post. And they're doing that for a reason. They want everybody to go towards video, okay? And YouTube's already doing that, obviously, but YouTube is also changing their focus. You know, right now, if you see the hotness right now on YouTube is live videos. They're doing that for a reason, okay? Facebook Live has been there with live video way before, okay? So the last platform, video platform, that I don't think a lot of people see coming yet is Amazon. Amazon will be the third largest video platform, my opinion. And the reason why is Amazon's just huge. They're in a lot of areas, and they're doing a lot of things behind the scenes. Okay, so if you've probably heard of Amazon Video, right? They also have an Amazon, I can't remember the exact name, but they are trying to look for creators to come to the Amazon platform. Okay, there will be an Amazon Video platform for creators, trust me. Okay, so you'll see that coming. And Amazon, unlike, you know, the other companies like Vidme, Dailymotion, or Vimeo, they have tons of money. And so in the next year, you'll definitely see my stuff on Amazon for sure. I'm already on Facebook, if you didn't know, so I'm on Facebook already. But I'm definitely going to be in Amazon. And also from the digital marketing side, if you don't do digital marketing, you might not know this, but Amazon has their own ad platform. It's called Amazon Ads. Okay, so if you are the type of person who have, like, say, you do Amazon FBA, or you do, like myself, you do Kindle publishing, you can advertise on Amazon through Amazon Ads. Okay, so if you think about Google AdWords, Facebook ads, Twitter ads, Amazon has their own ad platform. And Amazon Ads, very similar to what I just stated earlier with YouTube. YouTube has the traffic. They have the monetization. Okay, Amazon has that too. Okay, so you're going to see Amazon come really, really hard. And since Amazon, if you think about like why you go to Amazon, this is why Amazon's so powerful. If you go to Google, right, or YouTube, or Facebook, when you go there, your primary intent is not to go buy something, right? So a lot of times, if people go to Google or YouTube, they are searching for something, okay? That's why you go to those platforms. When you go to Facebook, you're not really going to search for something, at least not yet. You're kind of going there for like entertainment, you know? It's more like you going to the store, walking around the mall, and here's some ads. That's what Facebook is. You know, they're more like a passive type stuff. You go in there, you're inside that community, okay? So it's more passive. Nobody goes to Facebook to search for something, okay? So just remember, Google, YouTube, their platforms, people are searching for something. Facebook, they're kind of like just there, you know, they're inside, you know? And then Amazon, this is why Amazon is so powerful. They are a buying intent platform, okay? And if you are from the digital marketing world, that is the best place you want to be. Because when you go to Amazon, just think about why you go to Amazon. You go to buy something, period. And that's why I really feel Amazon would be third, but if they connect everything together, they could be the top video platform. Why? Because they're going to make the most money. Because you go to Amazon to buy something, and they have so many things that they could sell you. You know, obviously. And they also sell a lot of business services behind it, like Amazon Web Services, okay? And so I really feel Amazon is the dark horse that a lot of people, I think, in the general public are not thinking about, because they have so many different things. And most importantly, unlike Google, YouTube, and Facebook, people have a buying intent going to Amazon. So look forward to my videos. They're going to be on Amazon. Maybe in a few weeks, I'll start posting videos up there as well. And so, Clayton Coffee, good morning. Thanks for joining. Would have been nice if you told me you were live. How long have you been on for? Yeah, Clayton, I'm normally on like at 9 in the morning, United States time. And the thing is, you know, the notification system, it's not that great. And honestly, I do want to talk about some things, because I do you know, obviously if you watch my channel, I talk about this a lot. I do marketing behind the scenes, and so I see a lot of data and analytics that people might not be familiar with. And then I kind of want to talk about some things that I'm seeing that YouTube's doing. And you could confirm this if you go to a lot of YouTube business sites or SEO sites or digital marketing sites. A lot of them would say the same thing, because they're working behind the scenes, okay? And so George is saying Facebook Live sucks. Everyone uses it for nothing. If they're drinking coffee, they use it to live stream. It's just having a sip of coffee. Damn. Yeah, George, that's exactly what I said earlier with the intent of Facebook. You're not really going there like to get something, you know? It's like entertainment. I think that's a great word, George. It's just entertainment. You're just there and just managed to see an ad or a post or something. They want to keep you in there. So just think about the whole concept of a mall. You know, when you're in Facebook, you're in a mall. You know, you're just like browsing, you're looking for different stuff, but you're not really searching for anything. You're just walking around and being entertained. That's what Facebook is right now. But Facebook is changing, okay? They don't want to be that. They want to be a place where people spend money, okay? Super, hey, good morning, Super. Thanks for joining. Hey, morning, Vasil. Thanks for joining. Thanks all of y'all for joining. And so, what I just said earlier, if you missed it, Vidme is shutting down. So for all the people who have created, who have loved Vidme, just be sure to get everything down and get out your videos, you know, and support the people who have been creating on there. And I definitely want to, you know, say a thank you for the people who created Vidme and for all the people who work there, because without them, that platform would not exist, okay? And so the Vidme went down because as a business, they couldn't continue generating money, okay? And I'm just recapping stuff. And so Dailymotion, Vimeo are usually the first things that people think about in video, but Facebook and especially Amazon, those are really, really powerful. And so let me like give you my thoughts on where YouTube is really going, okay? In terms of what they're really focusing on. And I could see this because I look at a lot of the analytics, okay? If you are, you know, a digital marketing, you will definitely know familiar with all the AdWords analytics, the Google analytics, and so there's a lot of analytics, and all of it ties together, okay? And let me tell you in general what YouTube focuses on now in the modern age. This could change in the future, okay? What Google cares about is you staying on their platform, and it's not just Google. Every single platform does the same thing. That's why people spend so much time in Facebook, because Facebook designed it that way. So Amazon does the same thing. Every single one of them want to keep you on their platform as long as possible. And let me explain why YouTube does that, okay? I explained this before, but let me explain to you how YouTube makes money, okay? Google has an ad platform called Google AdWords. I use Google AdWords. a lot of people use Google AdWords. That's the biggest ad platform in the world. So or businesses, we go to Google AdWords, we buy ads, okay? And then Google AdSense, which is part of Google, they pay YouTube creators from the money that people spend on ads, okay? So that's how it simply works. But in order for people who are on YouTube to see the ads, they need to keep them there longer. That's the same thing that Facebook does. They want to keep you on their platform. That's the same thing that Amazon does. So the longer that you are on their platform, the more, I guess, the more options or the more times they could show an ad to you. Okay? So that's how the business model works. And like I said, every single platform works exactly the same. It doesn't matter. You think about Twitter, it doesn't matter. They all do exactly the same thing. And it makes sense. And so, with all of that being said, what YouTube cares about is your watch time. That's what they care about. The longer you could keep people on YouTube, that's what they care about. So, and they're already doing this with all their metrics behind the scenes, their algorithms. There's like millions of different points that YouTube uses for their algorithms. So nobody knows it, but in general, just really thinking high level, and then if you are a content creator, just look at your analytics. YouTube does not care, especially nowadays, they don't care how many subscribers you have. Views, no, they don't care about that neither. What they really care about is how long are you keeping them on their website. That's what they care about. So in the future, you will see channels with millions of subscribers or millions of views. That's great, but that's not what they're looking at. Google is going to look at the channels that keep people there the longest, okay? And then they're going to start pushing those channels up, okay? So that's what's going to happen. And it's already happening, okay? And that's why, you know, if you are on YouTube and this is your primary means of an income, you're going to have to, like, develop other ways to make money around the platform, okay? Because Google AdSense, in my opinion, in the future, I've already said this before, YouTube will be a paid platform. So what that means is they're going to pay less and less on AdSense and maybe nothing in the future. Just think about that, okay? Facebook, they don't pay you anyway, so it doesn't matter. And so people are already creating content for free for these other platforms. Just think about that. Facebook, Twitter, and then for Amazon, whenever they start getting more people to create content, they're not creating any of their own content, but YouTube is the only one paying you right now, okay? And so, but in the future, they're gonna pay you less because they don't need as many people because they already have the traffic, okay? And so just think about it that way. If you are a content creator, you're gonna really have to think about different ways of working whatever you're doing, whether it's a business or you're self-employed, whatever it is, side money. Make sure it's built around the platform and not dependent on the platform, okay? And right now, YouTube and all the other platforms, they want people to stay on their platform. So kind of keep that in mind if you are a content creator. You know, you're going to have to think of ways to keep people on there. And there are many ways that you can do that. Obviously, there is the meta description, the tags on YouTube. And so it's very important if you are doing YouTube, just remember it is a search engine. And so you have to do some research on SEO. Okay, so there's this thing on Google AdWords and also in Facebook. One is a relevancy score, okay, that's on Facebook, and then on Google AdWords there's a thing called a quality score. And what Google and Facebook does, and Amazon Ads does, and all the ad platforms do it, they look at a whole bunch of different stuff and they want to see if it's relevant to what the user is looking for or wanting, okay? And so you have to think about those things too. Anyway, not to get long into it, but just realize that if you are on YouTube or you are deciding to get on any of these platforms, it doesn't matter, any of these platforms, just remember that what they care about is you keeping them on their platform so they could actually make money off of that platform, okay? So just think about that. So let me see, Super, with net neutrality news lately, what are your thoughts on how this may impact future video platforms? Yeah, Super, that's a good question. I try not to get into the whole political thing, okay? But this is my simple answer to that, Super. Focus on your entrepreneurship skills. I would say that 1000% all of the times. Because all these other things that are happening around you, whether it's YouTube demonetized, whether it's net neutrality, whether it's, you know, the platform going against creators, it doesn't matter. Because those things will change all the time. Like, for example, if you were the type of person who was really into writing blog sites. Back then, when you were on Google AdWords, all right, you were on search, it was very easy to rank and you could make tons of money. But then Google made an update, it was called the Penguin and Panda update, and that destroyed everybody's source of revenue, okay? And so my feeling is, and I watch a lot of business sites, okay, and all of them will say the same thing. And if you look at all the top YouTube channels, and I'm not talking the one with millions of views, no, I'm talking about the top business channels, you'll notice that they don't have a lot of subscribers or a lot of viewers. And you'll notice they make probably thousands of times more money through their business, okay? And so I would focus, my opinion, always focus on your entrepreneurship skills. Because if you look at all the most successful people in the world, all of them are entrepreneurs, period. There is not a single one on the top Forbes list all around the world. They're all entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs affects everything. I mean, everything that you have, your clothes, the electronics that you use, it doesn't matter if you are in politics or not. All of you are buying from a business. All of them. They all have cell phones. They all have food that they buy. And so my personal feeling is focus on the entrepreneurship skills. And then whatever happens, it doesn't matter what country that you're in, because there's a lot of things happening in many countries all around the world, okay? But the ones that are able to adapt are always the entrepreneurs, you know? So that's my feeling, okay? That's why I don't focus a lot of times on things like that. And because honestly, there's always going to be things like that. And you do have some control, but if you think about who's really controlling everything and who has the most power, it's always entrepreneurs. It's always entrepreneurs. And so I know that gets on a tangent, but that's why I don't discuss a lot of these other things, because if you focus on the entrepreneurship skills, it doesn't matter what happens because you're able to adapt. Okay? You're never going to see, with all of these things happen, you rarely see any of the top most successful people being really worried about it. Okay? Because they know how to adapt. And they face these types of problems all the time. They're at a much higher level. And then for people who actually are really passionate about it, and you know, they will support whether it's pro or against, but at the end of the day, they're not the ones who make the decisions. At the end of the day, the people who are actually in power, you know, which is most of the times entrepreneurs, even behind the politicians. Okay, so not to get into a long rant, Super, but that's my thoughts on it. I really feel that focus on your entrepreneurship skills. I myself, I focus on the content creation, the entrepreneurship skills. Focus on that, because whatever happens, you're not going to be affected as much. And also, just think about the top entrepreneurs in the world, because they have the skills and experience to actually make a lot of money. You know, money alone isn't what makes them successful. It's the skills and experience. They're able to create companies, which is able to create jobs to give people like you who are watching a job, so that you can have money to feed your families. Just think about it that way. So if you focus on entrepreneurship skills, then you could get to that level where you could actually help a lot of people. You can help a lot more people that way, you know, because at the end of the day, you could go on all the forums, you could go to all the change campaigns that you want, but you're not the ones who are really, you know, moving things around. You know, you're not the ones in a position of power. And so just think about it that way. Not only the power to actually make decisions, but the most important power is to actually help people. Just think about your job right now. If you have a job, most people have a job all around the world. You would not have that job if somebody did not decide to have an idea, to be an entrepreneur, to go for it, and to become successful, and to go through a lot of challenges every single day, so that their company is still around, and then they're still around to help a lot of people. Okay, so anyway, that's a long-winded thing, but those are my thoughts on it. Okay, so George Truffles, I was just typing that too for LOL. Okay, so yeah, so bottom line, Vidme is closing down. I recommend that you really focus on YouTube now, but if you are doing other video platforms, I would highly recommend Facebook, and I'm going to start doing Amazon as well. And I know that might not be the best place for some creators, but you kind of have to take a long view. And honestly, if you don't really like those platforms, then the best thing to do is create your own website. Create your own website, and then, you know, use those other platforms to drive people to your website. That's what I'm doing. I mean, I have my own website, and I have my stuff on many other things, and so I build whatever I'm doing around these platforms. Okay, I don't depend on them specifically. Okay, I mean, That they are amazing marketing tools because they have the traffic and they have everything else surrounding it. So yeah, so if you want more freedom, to create your own stuff, create your own website. That's about the only place that you're going to have complete control. Okay, so if you are dependent upon all these other platforms, then you're always going to be dependent upon them. Okay, so even if you wanted to create whatever you wanted, if the rules change on the platform, then you have to follow because you don't own those platforms. Okay, and so Super saying great advice, thank you. No problem, Super. That's just my feelings. I just feel with this channel, I really feel like a lot of geeks who come to this channel, this is my own personal feeling. I don't know any of you personally, but I really feel that a lot of people who come to this channel, geeks have a certain type of mentality. Okay, and I think one of the biggest things, and I mentioned it so many times before, one of the biggest things that geeks really value is independence and freedom. I think that's something like core to almost every geek. They really love their independence, they love freedom. And so with that being said, they have independent thinking. And so I really feel like a lot of people come to this channel, in my opinion, they're like really smart people and that they can think for themselves. Okay, and so so the second thing, George said, you got that right, Geek. Thanks, George. Yeah. Let's talk about the second piece, and this is, I guess, more good news stuff. Let me get out of this is a Gunstar Heroes, for anybody who remembers. It's one of my favorite Sega Genesis games. It's really super hard, so check it out. It's made by Treasure. Let me see if I can get out of this. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, maybe I can't. All right. All right, so what I was trying to do is I actually just installed RetroPie, and there is not a way to, I had a hotkey on here. Let me see. All right, I'll come back to that later. But what I wanted to do was, I wanted to show you that I have Linux Mint 18.3 Sylvia. That's really what I wanted to talk about. God, okay, that bothers me. Let me see if I can get out of there. And that's the only thing I don't like about RetroPie. Normally, in a game like this, you would just press escape, like MAME, and it would get out. But not RetroPie. There's actually a hotkey, and I can't remember the actual keyboard hotkey. Okay, never mind. But what I was trying to do was show you Linux Mint 18.3, but you probably can't see it anyway. Okay, so Lance is saying, I upgraded from Linux Mint 18.2 to 18.3 this week. So far, it's working very well, no issues. Robert Lopez, greetings, salutations, Dr. Rob. Thank you, Robert, for joining, and thank you, Lance, for joining. And so let's get into Linux Mint 18.3 Sylvia. I did do a review, or not a review, I did a installation and walkthrough of Linux Mint 18.3. I'll leave the video up there somewhere. And I would say this, and I did say it on my video, but I wanted to go into this further because we have people on here now that who actually use Linux. And so I'm going to absolutely say I love Linux Mint 18.3 Sylvia. I absolutely love it. And the reason that I love it so much is, like, for a lot of reasons why, in my opinion, Linux Mint is my favorite distribution. Okay, especially for somebody like myself. I'm a general user. I just want to use my computer every single day. I don't really do as many things with it like I used to. But it's the most stable for sure. In my opinion, Linux Mint is the most stable. Also, I think it's the easiest to use overall. And third, I love the fact that the community, the people, and I want to talk about them a little bit further. The community that surrounds Linux Mint, they're really awesome. Okay, I mean, I've had like very few issues over the years. If I compare like Linux Mint versus all the other distros, and even Ubuntu, Ubuntu I say is the second best in my opinion for people who are new. There's things like Ubuntu Mate, which is still Ubuntu anyway. But Linux Mint over the years, it's always delivered. Okay, and now we're up to the point where, man, it just makes it so much easier for people who are looking for an alternative. Okay, that's why I make so many Linux Mint videos. I'm gonna go ahead and restart this. because I really wanted to show you my screen. So that's why I really enjoyed Linux Mint so much, because it has all of those things, and at the same time, the community behind it, they're awesome, okay? And so, Robert Nosepace is saying, I just upgraded for Linux Mint 18 to 18.3, no issues. Yes, Robert, I use my Gyro, don't use Windows very much. Thanks, Robert, for mentioning Windows. That's really what I wanted to get into, because with Linux Mint, with each iteration, they're making it easier for a Windows or Mac user to transition over to Linux. Okay, and I really strongly believe that Linux Mint, because it's constantly becoming more stable, it's constantly really focused on the whole user experience. You know, like for example, if you actually go into your administration and then you go to your software manager, and I did mention this in my walkthrough, but it just is, you know, very easy. Okay, I mean, and I'm glad I restarted my machine, because I restarted my machine from a code boot. That took a few seconds. Okay, and so if you're on a Windows 10 machine, even if you have a fast one, you know, the things like that, it's those little things that I don't think, like, you know, we as Linux users, we probably notice that, okay? But I don't think the majority of times the general user, especially if they're on Windows, more Windows than Mac, because I think Mac, it's a really good experience. Okay, I will say that Mac is a really good experience in my opinion. It's the closest thing to having a Linux experience. Okay, but you know, here with Linux Mint, you saw I just booted up in just a few seconds. Okay, I went to my software manager. That came up really quick, and it's not just the speed, okay, which is important, but like the user experience, that was easy. You know, I didn't have to like really do anything else. And then if I do something like with let's start up Windows 10, right? So, and you know, for all the people who are watching who have not used Linux, this is not a bash on Windows 10 or Apple Mac OS, okay? The whole point of me doing tutorials on Linux Mint, or also Linux in general, is because I want to let people know that there is an alternative, you know, that they have other options besides Windows 10 or Mac. And then at the same time, that if they are using Linux, you know, something like Linux Mint, that it's not like super hard, okay? And that's why I really want to talk about this, because it's all works together. And so this is a Windows 10 in VirtualBox, okay? Lance is saying, even if Mint were pay to use, I would use it. So instead, you could donate to the Mint project via their website. I recommend do it if you enjoy using this free software. Absolutely, Lance. Yeah, definitely, you know, donate to these foundations, you know, these communities. Helps keeps them running. And it's amazing that they're offering this for free. And I know it's open source, but I mean, if you think about something like a paid software, and my opinion, your overall experience is better on something that's free, that's unbelievable, okay? So here's Windows 10. You know, that's not a bad experience at all, okay? But I'm just showing you some things that are different. For example, when I logged in Windows 10 earlier this morning, obviously normally when you get into Windows 10, there's these notifications, okay? And then here I had an update that came in. And then when I actually did my update, let me show you right here. When I did my update, I actually had it hung up. So when I did my update earlier, it actually hung up on this 30%, and I'm here doing other things on my computer. Like here, I have my Linux virtual machine, I'm moving around my machine, and then the Windows 10 hung up, okay? And that doesn't mean that doesn't happen in Linux, okay? It could happen, of course, okay? But in a whole Linux world, okay, specifically with Linux Mint, this is why I want to talk about ease of use and stuff, is because in Linux Mint, if you wanted to upgrade, I just did an upgrade this morning. I didn't have to restart my machine at all, okay? And so it's those little things where, you know, it doesn't get in the way of you using your computer, you know? And with this version of Linux Mint 18.3, all these little visual touches, even like stuff like the on-screen keyboard, you know, and even like searching for things, it's so much easier and more familiar to people who are used to the whole mobile experience. And then when you include things like, doing updates without having to restart your machine, right here, and I don't get any type of notifications to do updates or anything, that's really powerful, okay? And so far, this version of Linux Mint is extremely solid and fast. Linux Mint has never been slow, but with Linux Mint 18.3, I've noticed and I don't have I have a pretty powerful machine from my point of view. I have a Intel, I have an Intel 6700K. Let me see if I can tell you exactly my specs. So, yeah, I have a Intel i7 6700K at 4 gigahertz. I have 16 gigs of RAM, and I have the fast RAM. And both of my hard drives, I have SSDs. I have a 720 gig and another 250 gig. And so my machine was already fast. But with this version of Linux Mint 18.3, I've noticed animations, things come up just a lot quicker, even though it's a few milliseconds. And also, one of the updates that Linux Mint did with 18.3, they have this high DPI. And so my resolution, it's clearer, things are sharper, which is really nice. And then also there is a night mode that you could download. It is called Redshift. And what it does is, let me show you. It will actually look and see at the time of the day that you are running your computer, and then it will adjust, see the colors changing, it's getting a little bit darker, and so at night it actually gets a lot darker, so that's good for your eyes. And Windows and Mac, they have similar tools to this as well, but that's really cool that tools like this are kind of built in, and so I'm going to exit out of that. So let me quit there. Okay. And so, let me see. Lance is saying, hello, George. Robert says, George Linux is a bit more immune to viruses. Yeah, and so those little touches, I just think it keeps getting better. I mean, I know I'm really rehashing some of the same things, but at the same time, I'm really blown away that they could do this. And so if you actually look at the Linux Mint website, okay, look at the community. And this is something where I think if you have been in Linux for a while, this is nothing new to you. But for people who are brand new to Linux, I really think that the concept of how an open source operating system works and the community that surrounds it is kind of foreign, okay? Because a lot of times when we are buying software, right? When we're buying Windows or Mac, it's you just buy the software, right? But you're not really connected to the people and the community. I don't think so. I know there's a Mac community, a Windows community. I know that, but I think in Linux it's just different. For here, if I'm coming here to the Linux Mint website and there is a donate button, I recommend you do that. Okay. You see my name on there too. Just a little plug. And so if you go to About and you go to About Linux Mint or look at the teams, there's 3 people who are primarily managing Linux Mint. Okay, this is an operating system that's used by millions of people around the world. There's Clem, there's Xenopath, and there's Oscar 799, and then the teams around it. They have a development team on GitHub, okay, and they also have a community website as well. And so if you actually wanted to help Linux Mint, if you couldn't do it monetarily or you wanted to do both, you could also contribute to the Linux Mint community right here. For example, if you're a programmer or a designer, you could come here and help. If you go to GitHub, you could come here and look at all the different components that they have. And then if you actually come to the testers, the community portion of Linux Mint, there's actually a testing team. And if you look at the testing team, the maintainers are Clem, Frederick, Jamie Booth, Kendall, and MerylWiz79. Those are the maintainers. And then testers, there's maybe about, I'd say maybe 25 people. And so that's absolutely amazing. I don't know how they're able to do all this on something that's used by millions of people. And then if you go to the community page, there's actually different sections. There's ideas. So if you came here to ideas, you could actually, I'm pretty sure you could actually look at the ideas that people have submitted or maybe the team has submitted. And then you can also go to tutorials. There's actually more tutorials here. So I guess this is part of the team. if they actually wanted to put out a tutorial, they could do that. Like for example, the tutorial here, there's a 5-minute essential shell tutorial, and it is text-based, but it'll give you like, you know, a really easy way to use the shell. And then you can look at the different countries, top countries. So in the US, there's about 4,000 users, and then Germany with almost 1,200, and the UK with 1,200, and then India with almost 1,000. There's France, and so you could actually look at a breakdown of all the countries that actually use Linux Mint, number of users, at least from the data that they have available to them. And so, okay, so yeah, so Robert said earlier that Linux is more immune to viruses. Yeah, and I have talked about that before. You know, security is a very complex thing, but at least in Linux, in the whole Linux world, and you know, there's always going to be that debate of security, you know, but talking from somebody who's a real user, I've been using Linux for like more than 10 years now, okay? Not to say that it couldn't happen, especially more in a complex age, but I'm just talking about real world, everyday use. I have never had a virus, malware, rootkit in Linux, ever, unless I was testing something, unless I downloaded something that I know was a virus, and then I would execute it and give it permissions to run on my Linux system. That's the only time that I've actually had that. I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be thinking about security, okay? I mean, I have stuff like ClamAV on here as well. Obviously, I just have the general GUI firewall on there as well. You know, just, but like, honestly, that's about it. I don't really have much else, you know, because in the whole Linux world, it's not like you don't need it, but at the same time, you don't need it, you know? I mean, I don't know how to explain that, okay? And then, you know, if you go to something like a Windows 10 or any of the Windows stuff, that's probably one of the first tools you're going to install. You're going to have some type of antivirus stuff. And so whenever you're going from a Windows or even Mac, right, especially Windows, and then you go to the Linux platform, you really have to not only learn how to use the operating system, which you have to do in anything, but also like your habits change, right? And so like if I'm coming to Windows, and this is my personal opinion, I'm trying to use my computer, but there's a lot of stuff, you know, there's a lot of distractions. And then if I have to install an update, I have to restart my machine, you know. There's other stuff. There's advertisements here for different products that they have and different services, okay? And so, you know, when I come into Linux, that is like that's not even on my mind, you know. And so like when I come into Linux, I just use my computer. It's like, it's so weird because that takes me back to the days where, you know, of DOS. I had a Commodore 64, or actually Commodore 128. My best friend had a Commodore 64. Back then, you just use your computer. And so when I'm using like Linux, especially with Linux Mint 18.3, because I can see the transition. I've been using it, Linux for so long and using a computer for such a long time. I've seen this whole evolution, you know, but the funny thing is with Linux or Linux Mint, this is the most, what can I say? This is the most basic way to use a computer. I use my computer, my operating system responds. It's like that's how it was at the beginning. You know, I mean, that's so weird where it's not that anymore. Even if you're using a Mac, I use a Mac as well, and even there, it's distractions. Okay, it's a lot of I just updated to Mac OS High Sierra. I think that was, yeah, I just had that update about a day ago. And then it has like updates to update my apps, and then there's updates for different software. That's annoying, you know. And then I had to reboot my machine when I didn't want to. So, but not here. So, let me see. Robert is saying, okay, no, George. Okay, George is saying, I know, man, I'm using Mint for years. Yeah. And Robert's saying there are more Windows viruses than Linux viruses. Linux is like driving a Subaru versus having a Ford car found on road daily. Yeah, Robert, and I think if you are into security, you will know that there's a thing called CVE. There's different threat levels for viruses, malware, and so forth. And of course, if you look at Linux as a whole, there's a lot. okay, if they just aggregate all that. But if you really look at the ones, especially for the Linux desktop, that really affect your system, that are actually affecting users, it's like, I think it's less than like 2%, maybe less than 1%. It's been a long time since I looked. I could basically list all the known viruses and malware that affect the Linux desktop. I could probably list that in one page, maybe half a page. Whereas in the Windows world, there's, I don't know, I'm pretty sure you can't list that on a page, okay? And so, yeah, so if people were thinking about security and stuff, I still really believe, even, you know, if you are a software engineer or you develop operating systems, you would have a way more better description than I do. But in general, as somebody who uses Linux every single day and who's been using it for years, and there's a lot of people on here that use Linux for years, I would say security is not the first thing on their mind when they using their system. Not to say that they're naive about it. As a matter of fact, a lot of geeks, they probably know way more about their operating system than the majority of people do. Okay, so they're probably more security minded than most people. But at the same time, when they're using the operating system, that's not something that they, you know, really focus a lot of their time on. Okay, and so that's just the reality of it, because you don't have to think about those things. Like, number one, you don't have to think about distractions. You don't have to think about, is Microsoft or Apple spying on me? You know, mostly Microsoft. You don't have to think about those things, okay? And then you don't have to think about, man, is this stuff gonna cost me a ton of money? Are they gonna try to sell me something later? I mean, I'm all for business. I'm all for like trying to make money to help your business, to help people. I'm all for that, you know. But the way in which you do it, like the way in which Windows 10 does it, in my operating system, I really don't like that. I absolutely hate it, as a matter of fact. And I did do a video on that as well, where your operating system nowadays, it's not an operating system. And it's now a gateway into keeping them not only in their ecosystem, which is important, but it's a gateway for them to sell you more stuff while you're using your operating system, you know. And that's really bad, in my opinion. That's really, really bad, because it violates, I wouldn't say violates, okay, because you willingly bought this, right? But it really takes away what all the good things. Okay, let's say that. There are a lot of good things in Windows 10, okay? And there's a lot of good things in Mac OS. But whenever you start integrating, and in a lot of ways forcing a lot of these other things, especially trying to sell the user by using the data, and I know they collect tons of data, but we all collect data. I mean, it's very important. But when you're doing that inside their operating system, that's just bad. I mean, I can't think of really anything positive out of that. From a business end, okay, yeah, it makes a lot of sense, okay? And then if people, the majority of people, don't think there's any other alternative, then, you know, that's why we're here, okay? So I really hate that experience, okay? So with that being said, you know, it's like when I'm in here, I feel like so refreshed, okay? I feel like when I'm using my operating system, I'm in like a modern game with tons of microtransactions and DLCs. That's probably the best analogy that I could use, because even video gaming used to be about purely video games, and it's kind of all moved the same way. If you think about that, I never thought about that till now. Video games used to be just about video games, but now if you play a modern video game, there's so many distractions. Always. More people are complaining about microtransactions, DLCs, loot boxes, all these things, you know, having problems with your version, DRM. There's more complaints about that, in my opinion, than actually, like, let's focus on the gameplay. You know, let's focus on the actual game itself, similar to the operating system, okay? And so you don't get to fully enjoy your operating system, okay? So, Lance got to go. Thank you, Lance. Yeah, I'm about to run this show. Yeah, the show's almost at an hour. So, let me see. George says, I have no idea about cars, bro. I'm 90% blind. Oh, sorry, George. I'm not allowed to drive. Robert is saying Linux allows you to be more liberal and less proprietary. You can make Linux your own. You own the code. Absolutely. You own the code and you own the operating system that you yourself used and built, which is awesome. Okay. Lance, I run Linux at VM. The first thing I did was install antivirus on it. LOL. Yeah, Lance, me too. I did have AVG. I uninstalled it. Let me see. Robert says, I used to dual boot Windows, but now I have a full Linux machine. I dual boot Linux, Mint, and Manjaro. I was a KDE fan, but it's discontinued. Yeah, Robert. And antivirus is like life insurance. You don't need all that. Just have the basic. Yeah, I would agree with you, Robert. If you are on other platforms like Windows, you should definitely have some type of antivirus. You know, there's a lot of debate over that. But, you know, it's, like I said, security is complex. Okay. Robert said Windows has become so commercialized. George is saying a PC is like air conditioning. It becomes useless when you open Windows. Oh, that's funny. And then Robert said, nice, George, good analogy. George said 12 I said that, I think. Okay. And so I am going to end this off, but I do want to say if you have not upgraded to Linux Mint 18.3, definitely do your testing first. So what I do is I have a virtual machine. So what I normally do is I will have I have Linux Mint 18.2 in a virtual machine. So if I want to make sure, or as best I can, like if you don't have a second computer lying around, maybe test out the new version of Linux Mint in a virtual machine first before you make an upgrade. And definitely back up everything. Okay, the backup tool that I use is grsync. Okay, which is the GUI interface for rsync. Okay, so that's the one I use. Linux Mint 18.3, they have made improvements to their backup as well. You can also do snapshots of your operating system with time shift. And so there's a lot of improvements under the hood. But the biggest thing I would say with Linux Mint 18.3 Sylvia is the fact that it's really focused on the users, period. I really feel that is the strongest thing that the team, the Linux Mint team, and everybody who has helped create this, I think that's the biggest compliment I could make to this. In my opinion, Linux Mint 18.3 Sylvia is the most usable version of Linux I have ever used. It's awesome, and I've been using it like for a few days now. I've had no issues. About the only thing I had was like maybe an icon up here. When I'm doing simple screen recording, the icon sometimes doesn't show up, okay? But you know, it is a brand new version of Linux, so some applications it will need to get updates. But everything else, you know, I'm really thoroughly impressed by this. Okay, absolutely impressed. Hats off to the Linux Mint team and for everybody who's helped. This is an awesome version. And I'll probably be doing more videos on Linux Mint 18.3 Sylvia as I get into it more. And it'll be primarily from my perspective, okay, from a general user. I really want to show people that who are new to Linux or who have never heard Linux, because most people who find my channel find it through my Linux videos. I really would like them to see how easy it is to transition, or maybe have it as a second operating system. How like liberating it is to actually use your computer without having all those other things around you. Okay, and so Robert's saying thanks, dude, peace, and thanks for live stream. How often do you stream? Robert, what I try to do, I try to stream every Saturday at 9 in the morning, U.S. time. That's normally when I stream. You know, so that's kind of what you can look at all my older YouTube live videos too. I'm really big on playlists. So if you look at my playlist section, I have quite a few playlists, okay? But they're all very focused on the same categories, okay? So if you actually go to my YouTube channel and look at my playlist, you'll also see a YouTube live playlist as well. And so let me log in real quick. And so that's it for this particular episode. I do want to thank everyone who's joined. Of course, my regulars, Lance, Basil, George, Supa, yeah, and then also new people in here, Robert, and let me see, and anybody else who, Clayton, yes, and Clayton, he has been on here before. And so for anyone else who is currently watching these videos or have actually watched my videos before, I just want to thank all of you. You know, thank you so much for taking your time, because I know your time is valuable. Taking your time to come here and geek out with all of us in this Geek Outdoors and Geek community. And if you had any other thoughts on whatever I talked about, whether it's with Vidme, YouTube, or Linux Mint Sylvia, especially Linux Mint Sylvia, because I'm so hyped up about this version. I'm super happy about it. Leave that in the comments area below. And as always, if you did get value out of these videos, leave a like and subscribe. And if you did want to support my channel further, you could do that at geekoutdoors.com. I'm sorry, not Geek Outdoors. I'm sorry, patreon.com/Geek Outdoors. You can also find that information on my channel. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in another episode.